Hey everyone, welcome to the BizDev Podcast, the podcast about developing your business. I'm David Baxter, your host, and I am joined by hat manufacturer Gary Voigt. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. Yeah, I've been wearing a lot of hats lately, and both figuratively and in the podcast. But yeah,
I guess done. Yeah,
I'm in between finding someone who can cut my hair the right way. I'm such a diva.
Hey, at least you have hair, man. Shut up. Shut your dirty mouth. All right. We are joined today by Dhiraj Peechara, who is the CEO of DataQ, and we're going to talk to him about his business in just a little bit. But I want to start us today. And Dhiraj, join us wherever you feel comfortable. Where we're going to talk about the economy, because I think it's a little departure from what we normally talk about, because when we talk about tech and that kind of thing. But I think right now, every business owner is thinking about the economy. One, I don't think you can get away with it if you read any news. And what's so interesting to me is the vast chasm between people and their view of this economy. What I mean by that is, like, my business group, almost all of them think that we're about to fall down a cliff and it's going to be horrible, and that we've been in a recession for 6 months. And none of the data actually says that, but that's how they feel.
Yeah, it seems to be, a lot of it's just a perceived interpretation instead of actual facts, because when you see giant tech companies laying off swaths of people, and even if they're not labeled as a tech company, like companies that are, more into the finance field, or, if you bundle the whole, I guess you could say, Bitcoin or cyber cryptocurrency.
No, that doesn't count. Blah.
No, but emotionally, when people hear that that's all tanking, they think investments are down. They think the market's down. Then they think tech companies are laying people off. And it starts to tumble into this whole pile of them thinking the whole economy is crashing, when that's not the case.
My take on that is, as an entrepreneur, we have so many more opportunities, and the opportunities are only getting bigger. So at least from my side, it's all positive.
So you're optimistic, regardless of what you're hearing on the news. You're optimistic.
I'm
Absolutely.
with you.
It's funny. I feel that way as well, but I think that is the cause of that is that we as a company have decided that we're going to make a big push into new clients. We are making a big push into reaching out and finding new clients. Part of that is because I want to be prepared if any of our existing clients need to pull back because their economy, for whatever reason, does go badly, that they say, hey, you know what, we're going to pull back a little bit. We're going to cut our budget, and we need to cut you back a little bit for the next 6 to 8 months, whatever. I wanted to be prepared for that. So I said to my team, hey, we're going to make up for that by being very aggressive in our sales and marketing, more than we normally are, to counteract that. And as part of that, we've been doing that, and we've been going forward, and that's been getting some steam, right? And so that makes me optimistic, right? That makes me excited about what's coming, because I see new clients kind of coming along, and that's as the founder, that's super exciting, right? So it's kind of weird though, because my guys, my business guys, and the news, I always hate the news, because I think a lot of it becomes self-fulfilling prophecies, right?
Yeah.
If you think the economy is going, if enough people, especially consumers, think the economy is going to be bad, it will be, because they'll stop buying stuff. And it just makes everything tank.
Well, whether it's the news or just media in general, if the overall business goal for those companies are just to get eyeballs onto content, then they have to frame that content in a way that's going to attract eyeballs, and usually a more negative connotation, and the more emergency feeling, the more, what's going to happen? I better find out. Intrigue seems to be more effective than the, hey, you know what? Everything's looking good, and here's why. So, like you were saying, a lot of it is interpreted. It could be. Or
if we get rid of all 24-hour news cycles and social media, I think we'll be in a much better spot.
Oh, yeah. Let's just go back to like the 1950s.
I totally agree.
There we go.
Yeah.
We should start a petition. Let's shut down Meta, and let's shut down. I think the world will be better. My kids will certainly be better.
Yeah, most experts, and we linked to an article in Axios that kind of relates to the economy and the tech business, and a lot of economic experts are saying, well, the tech business area, that the industry itself and the big giants, whether it be Meta, Amazon, Salesforce, Stripe, or whatever, they had some hiring practices and some paying practices that were just way too big for reality.
Yeah.
And so now they're cutting back and scaling back because the investors are not seeing the return that they wanted. So the easiest way to give the investors what they want and make it seem like you're moving forward in their best interest is to cut back in spending. So that's why they're laying people off.
Well, I think it's disingenuous of the news media, and I'm going to pick on Meta here for a second, but they're not the only ones who've done this. In 2020 and 2021, I think I read a thing that they hired 40,000 people, which is mind-blowing. Like, how do you hire that many people? But they lay off 10,000, and people think the world's exploding. They're still net up 30,000 people. I mean,
Not
that's
only
not
that, the 10,000 are highly qualified, engineers and people.
Yeah, they'll find a
designers
job
that are
within
going to
10
find
minutes.
a job at another company in a second.
But I think for a small business, I think if you are looking at this and you're hearing the news and you're scared, I think it's really important to just take a stock of your own. Let's keep it as micro as possible. I think that would be the advice is, how is your economy? I mean, yes, there is inflation. True. There's no question about that. But the good news on that front is it apparently has capped. Or peaked. That's the better word.
It is starting
right.
to
It is
show a downward
slowly
trend. Yes.
coming down. So maybe that's going to be an improvement. So if you have cost of goods sold and you're buying inventory, stuff like that, that of course is painful. You need to pay your people more because inflation's bad, right? That's painful. But other than that, I would say focus very closely on your own economy and see how it is. Don't necessarily listen to the doomsdayers that are out there and focus on your own. And I think that that's the way forward. Figure out what you can do to make your economy work, even if the rest of the local economy is. I heard a new word today. I was listening to a podcast, and this is, I don't want to go off into a tangent here, but they came up with the people at Davos met, and they came out with, that's the super rich people who determine like how the world economy is doing. They came up with a new word called polycrisis. That we are in the midst of a polycrisis. And it's like Ukraine and inflation and this, that, and the other. And I was like, ooh, they made a new word. Fun. Anyway, so I want to talk about something more important, and that's Dhiraj. I want to hear about you, DataQ. I want to hear about what you're up to and how you got there. And so tell me a little bit about you and your company and your history.
So fundamentally, I'm an engineer, and we love solving problems, removing inefficiencies, right? So I was working as a solutions architect as data engineer / solutions architect. And as part of that, we go to various companies for consulting. And one problem I saw repeatedly in every organization was the manual data testing. It takes a lot of time, and it causes problems in the data. And once you have bad data, it's very hard to fix. It's nightmare. So the best thing is to fix it as early as possible with the right set of tools. It's a little bit of more effort, but it pays much more in the long run. So the manual part of it is what was really bothering me. I saw that in every organization, and I knew something has to be done about it. I quit my job and started DataQ. That's the beginning of DataQ. And the journey, since it's been 5 years.
5 years, okay.
Yeah, it's been 5 years, and the journey has been tough, but now we passed through difficult time.
Tell me about your first year. That's always the one that's the one that's gonna put hair on your chest. That's what I joke about. It's scary because everybody comes in like very similar to me. Is I thought I was really good at development, so I'm going to start a company because I can do this better than others. You're saying, hey, I got a problem to solve. I'm going to fix it, and everybody's going to flock to me. How was that reality for you?
Yeah. So probably every founder who is building a product, they can answer that. But anyway, the first year was you jump in with a lot of passion. You see a problem, you can build it, you nail it, you're an awesome software engineer. Okay, I build it and then it's done. But then within probably 1 year, the reality kicks in and you make the software is ready, but nothing else happens.
No one cares because no one knows yet.
Yep.
No one cares, no one knows it. So it took me a lot of learning that the building tech is easier part. It is the research that you do and all that is that is the harder part. So yeah, the first year with full of passion and energy, we jump in. But if I have to go back and redo all my learnings, uh, I wouldn't even start my tech before I do enough research, ensure that the use case is solid and repeatable across, which is, but just that you need to get that confidence, not just to show somebody, but for your own sake. Otherwise, to have that passion for so many day after day, year after year is not easy.
Man, I tell you what, it's like you've listened to our podcast 8,000 times. That is, I couldn't have said it better myself. That is what I encourage so often is people don't want to dive in. We build startups. That's what we do. Or at least that's a big part of what we do. And so many people dive in before they even really want to know who their customer truly is.
Yeah.
I mean, they know there's a lot of people, startups fail because they're creating a solution for a problem that isn't real or that people don't realize they have. And so they spend all this time, money, effort, passion, like you're saying, and then they get out there and it's crickets, right?
Yeah.
And if you had just spent more time in the initial phases, the diving in, but it's boring, right? You don't feel like you're moving. That first year, you're like, I want to do. I'm wasting time. Let's go. And researching and Googling and learning and interviewing potential clients, that's all boring. And you don't want to do that. And
You have to find the balance too between your perception and then the real proof of concept. And no matter how much you think people are going to need this, if the market says, no, we don't really need it that much, then you got to either pivot or change something up. Maybe just find a different problem or add-on problem that you can, tailor your solution to. But
yeah, so you went, okay, so let me jump into your story again. So you created the tech. Did you write your own tech? So you built your own tech, that's a huge leg up. Very cool. So you built your own tech, you get that out in the market, and it's crickets. So what did you do to solve that? How did you get those first few customers? That's always the tricky part. That's what everybody's missing. So what'd you do?
So it took me time, a lot of learnings. And then initially it was all, of course, there was no marketing. So initially I reached out to people. Again, my personal nature, I wouldn't do that, but I learned that that's the only way. So I called people, I called friends, family, everyone I knew. And we got the first customer. Before you got the first customer, your thinking is, okay, you get the first customer, that's it. You can, everything happens.
I've solved it.
Solved it. Then the first customer comes, okay, then what? Nothing else. Needle is not moving. So slowly took time, 6 months. But what we have learned is when you have the customer, put all your energy and make sure that the customer is really involved by you. And that goes a long way.
Because then referrals and word of mouth from that customer moves the needle.
Right. That's the most effective way.
So did you fall into the trap? So I fell into this trap well, let me ask a question beforehand. Were you a single man shop for a long time, little time?
For a quite long time. I do have people help me,
Sure.
but not as a team. Yeah, for a long time I was single man.
Okay.
Again, you cannot do anything with single. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, you're exactly right. And that's where I was leading up to. So you're a single individual building a company, which is super common, right? Did you fall into the trap like I did that, okay, you get your first few customers, right? You're going. And now you're busy doing what the customer wants, right? You're tweaking the systems. They find bugs, whatever. You're doing your thing. And then you forget to go find more customers. And then your first few customers get finished and you realize you haven't been marketing. And so you now have this canyon of death in front of you.
Yeah.
Did you fall into that? Because boy, I did. Yeah.
Absolutely. Totally true. And you are so focused on doing everything for this customer that your pipeline is empty. You are not even focused there. You try to hire people, you do the best, and what next after the customer is okay? Is there what next? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Is your model recurring? So when you get a customer, do they stay on? They're paying you a monthly fee, or is it
Yeah,
project based?
yeah, it's yearly revenue.
Nice. Okay, so that's an advantage that you have compared to what we were going through. Is ours is very feast or famine. It's like big project, nothing. Big project, nothing. You get to build as long as you're keeping them happy. You keep adding more.
Right.
They just keep staying. That's a beautiful thing, and that's what everyone asks. When do I make my own product so that we can have a recurring revenue? Everyone asks me that. And the answer is we don't. But that so now you've got these. As long as you keep them happy, you now can build this, and now your software as a service, basically, right?
Right, right.
Perfect. So okay, so let's fast forward a little bit further. So now you've got some customers, you got some revenue. When did you feel the need to hire, or maybe you haven't? Hire people, bring people on? Is it still a single man shop, or do you have
No,
full time employees?
we have good team now. We are a full team of 9 people, 9 engineers. So
Nice.
Okay.
yeah.
So are they all engineers working on the product, or do you have marketing people and managers and admins, whatever?
8 of them are engineers. 1 is marketing.
Nice. Okay. Very cool. So very product focused.
Yeah.
And you get all of your customers now word of mouth? Do you do marketing like you're doing Google Ads and all of that? Or how are you finding people now?
Very little. Referrals has worked the best for us, and that's what we are focusing on. Referrals from customers referring to other customers. Marketing, we just started. I'm learning some of it as we go.
Very, very cool.
Just the data processing and validating, it might sound kind of mundane, and I don't know like the best way to market that or whatever. So I'm just curious, other than my assumptions, can you kind of give us from beginning to end, like what happens in the process of you acquiring the data, proofing, validating the data, and then what is the benefit? Like, what is the company using that data for? Are there different arenas? Is it all types of data? Is there any, do you have your foot in any of the ESG data for some of these companies that are coming in? So just a little bit more about the actual product process.
Right, absolutely. So yeah, so if you take in any organization, right, they get data from multiple sources, from third-party companies, from within the data that is generated, and this is what we call as raw data, the first layer, and then this data needs to be processed. Again, I'm oversimplifying it, but the second layer is where you process this data. And finally, the third layer is where you get insights or dashboards for the executives to look at the process data, the results, final results. Okay, my sales revenue is so and so on. Right? This is the typical life cycle of the data. Now, what we help is from this end-to-end testing of the data to ensure that the data is accurate at the first level, second level, and third level. So this 360-degree view of data metrics for an organization from beginning to end, that's what we provide.
And I'm assuming having correct and validated data saves the companies, your clients, time and money, and gives them a more accurate, view of where their sales. Is it mainly sales data that you guys are processing, or?
Yeah, sorry, I missed that question earlier. No, so we are absolutely data agnostic. The fundamental metric, I'm missing the word. The principles of data quality metrics, calculations, and data testing remain the same whether whichever
no matter what the
vertical
subject matter is. Okay.
Absolutely. It remains the same. So on top of that, we do add some specific industry-specific features for health, especially for healthcare data. So the onboarding is super easy, but the core engine remains the same.
Okay. Because I'm sure when you and David were talking about the business itself and data processing, they're probably, including myself, probably some people listening going, what exactly are they processing? Not sure. So that cleared that up.
Right.
So who's your typical client? Are they huge companies? Where do they fit?
Mid to large organizations are our ideal customer profiles. And now at this point, being a small company, we target mid-sized companies. Large enterprises have much longer sales cycle. Yeah, one thing I want to add from my side, right? So basically, earlier, one problem we had, or at least I had, was as a small company, when you are building a product, you get so many opportunities from all directions, right? And they want these tweaks. Okay, we so whether you go in that direction or you stay focused on your path, that's a $1 million question probably for every entrepreneur.
I want to be cognizant of time, so I want to ask my question that I ask everybody, or Gary sometimes asks it. If you were you 5 years ago, or another person starting up, not necessarily in your industry, it's just starting a business, what would be your top three pieces of advice you would give them?
Yeah, if I have to go back and do this all over, right? Number one is do enough research about the problem. Go take a step back from the use case perspective, and ensure again the use case is problem is enough in the market. Have so narrow vision of that use case and do it so well. Just that one, and when you do it so well for that one use case, the customers will love it. Then you go to the next step. The second biggest thing is the team and the culture. I mean, one person cannot do anything. You need the right team. Probably it's more important than the spouse. Or in fact, you will be spending more time with your teammates than spouse.
Let me dive into that. How do you, one, hire the right people? And two, how do you build that culture? In your world, how have you successfully done that?
The end vision. So what we do is the end vision that we are saving time in or removing inefficiencies in the process. That keeps us going every day. When we wake up, we know that we are going to save this much of time for these people directly. What they are doing in 5 days now, they can do in one day. That gives us motivation, and
So,
that gives us motivation for the whole team.
so your culture, and I'm wondering, I'm thinking out loud here, but your culture, because you're almost all engineers, you are all driven by the passion to create more efficiency.
Right.
That is so interesting. Like, I don't think if you weren't all engineers that would be enough to get everybody up in the morning. But
That's true.
because of your unique build, everyone's like, this, I'm a problem solver. I want to solve this. I want to make it better for them. That is my motivation. That's my
Right.
culture.
Right.
So interesting. Very cool. Very cool. So I interrupted you. What's your third piece of advice?
Finally the passion itself. So you have to find it. Uh, you have to have it. So when you jump into doing something, you are jumping in with full of passion. That's fine, but you have to remember that it goes long time. I mean, months, years, and long. How do you keep it unless you have that? Uh, you believe it so much. It's not easy to keep going.
David refers to that time as the slog, the time where passion will get you there, but you have to put your head down and do the hard work to keep going past what was fun at first to turn it
Yeah.
into something. Yeah. You've touched on a lot of topics that we cover on our podcast all the time, like the starting of the business, the culture of the business, the team, and yeah, the slog. Yeah, this fit perfectly.
But around that slog, so it's like where that comes from is a lot of people come to us and they're like, "Hey, I want to build X idea, and what I want to do is sell it, right? I want to build it, and in 5 years I want to sell it." And I always say that's a yellow flag to me, because that desire to sell it in that big payday is generally, not always, but most people, that's not enough to get up every morning for 5 years and slog it out.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because that paycheck may never come. And when you're looking at it and go, this is really hard. I don't want to get up today and do it again. That money, that ghost carrot is what I like to call that, that's floating out there in front of you, might not ever come. You've got to have something else driving you. And for you, you're so big on efficiency and really truly doing your mission that's what's getting you up every day.
Right.
Very
Right.
cool.
Absolutely.
Very cool.
So that's the third point. You need to find something that you can keep going forever.
I love it. I love it. So if someone wanted to get in touch with you, learn about DataQ, all of that good stuff, how would they do that?
Our website is https://dataq, Q as letter Q.io, and hello@dataq.io. Me or my team will reach out back immediately.
Awesome.
And we will have those links in the show notes and posted underneath the video and stuff like that, so people be able to access that.
So, Gary, if they wanted to get in touch with us,
and if anybody wants to get in touch with us, I knew that was coming.
Look what you did there. Yeah, you did.
Bunch there. You can send us any questions or comments through our email at hello@thebigpixel.net, or you can make any comments or suggestions underneath this video, or reach out to us on any of our social platforms.
Well, very cool. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed having you on. Clearly, you're obviously a big fan of our podcast, and that's always good to have big fans come on. I'm just kidding. But you're saying the same things. I love that, and I think that's a first, right? I mean,
it's interesting.
Not that everybody's against it, but
your story is. I'm not going to say it's typical, but I'm saying you definitely talked about all the same topics that come up when we talk to founders and startups, and they're the same issues, and how people deal with them might be slightly different, but again, it's good to hear everybody kind of goes through the same trials and tribulations in order to get to where they are. So thank you for sharing your story with us.
One advice from any new entrepreneurs is, before jumping in, if you do a lot of research, that saves you a lot of time. At least in my case, it would have saved me at least a year or more.
Instead of playing catch up, figuring out what to do with the thing you just built now. Yeah.
It's you cannot overstate the importance of knowing what you're building before you start spinning the plates, right? Because once you start spinning the plates and you're juggling and all of the stuff is going on at the same time, you don't have that luxury anymore to just concentrate on the core essence of the idea. Everyone wants to start spinning, putting those plates up, but man, you really just can't overstate that. So it's a great reminder. Well, thank you again for joining us. We appreciate it very much. And for everyone else who's listening, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. We will be back next week. Thanks so much.
Take care, guys.